Hey class, in this video I'm going to be going over exporting your pixel art from the Piskel app. I'm not going to do a full tutorial on using Piskel because I have a link to the YouTube tutorial series, and there's a lot of other tutorials out there. And many of you are also not going to be using Piskel as you're making your art. So I'm just going to basically be going over what we're looking for this character design assignment. And then how to export your art assets. So I'll do a couple quick drawings. I'm not going to spend a lot of time making it look really good or detailed, just as an example. And then I'll export the files, both for posting them on the blog as well for including them in your game, which we will start hopefully starting to put stuff into maybe next week, maybe the week after that. We'll see. Anyway, I'm on the character design lecture. And I'm down here at the bottom with some of the links. So I'm going to be using the Piskel editor, and we're going to go over a few things. So let me just open up a little document so we can write down everything we're going to do. So let's just make this a little bit bigger. And this is just as a reference. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make 3 character designs. Next, we're going to make idle, walk/run, and jump animations. Then we are going to export everything for the blog. So let's say export images for blog. And finally, we're going to export images for the game. So we're not actually going to be putting it in the game this week. So, technically, if you only do the blog images, that's going to be fine for this week. We'll start making the game hopefully next week, as I mentioned, so we can always do that then, but I'm going to go over it now so you can get a head start on that. So here's our 4 things that we're going to cover in this video. So let's get started. I'll just leave this over here for now. So I am going to be using the Piskel art editor. It's the thing I like about it is it's free, it's open source, and it's web-based, so it'll work the same way on any computer if you're using it on the web. There is a download area, and you can download it for your operating system. I have a copy of the Mac version on my computer. One thing that I noticed is that I got a security warning when I opened it, so you may have to do that whether you're on Windows or Mac. It is software that you can trust, so you can go ahead with that. Or if you want, like I'm going to do, I'm just going to use it in the browser. So I'm going to go back. So I'm signed in right now. You're going to want to sign in. You can use your Google account to sign in. That'll allow you to save your work online and come back to it. So I really recommend signing in and creating an account before you do anything else. If you need help with that, let me know. That way, if you make some art and save it, you can go back and edit it later. If you make a bunch of stuff and then just leave the browser, you might lose it. So definitely make an account first. And the nice thing is when you have an account, you have your gallery page. So you can see some art that I've made for previous examples. You can come back here and download your art later or make edits or do whatever you want. So it saves everything here. Let's see. I'm going to get started. I'm just going to start with a couple character designs. So I'm going to click on Create Sprite to open a new editor window. Again, I'm not going to go over everything in the interface. I'm going to let you guys, check out those tutorials and learn on your own. And a lot of you guys are going to be using other software. So I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm just going to do really quick couple character designs, nothing too fancy. And then I will export the images. So let's just start with a few designs. I'm going to use a few different shapes. So I'm just kind of like working out some ideas. And so I'm going to start with like a shape here, just a square as like the basis for the character. One thing I might do actually is check the size. You can see over here, if I go to 1x, that's the actual size of the art, right? Whoops. So that's the actual size of the art right there. And you can see that's really small. So I may preview this in a larger size so I can see it, but that's the actual size there. So I'm going to size this up a little bit. You can see the default is 32 pixels. That's pretty small, so I'm going to resize it to 64. And then This is actually pretty small at this point, so I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to make a new box, and this is going to be kind of like my box character. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a box on this frame, and I'm going to go to add new frame. And then you can see if the onion skin is turned on, you can see what's on the previous frame. So I'm just going to use that box as sort of like a little guideline for my shape as I start to draw it. And I'm going to turn the FPS off here because it makes this thing flash, which I don't want to see as I'm editing. So I'm going to go back to my pen tool. I'm going to choose a couple colors. So that's a good color. And then maybe another secondary color for the background. So that's pretty good. And so let's see, I'm gonna go and grab my pen, and I'm gonna make a cat character just for this example. I'm using the second pen size, and I'm just gonna start drawing. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this because it's just a video. I'm just doing quick examples, but you guys should spend a little bit more time, you know, fleshing out these details. So I'm gonna draw a cat that's kind of a square. So I'm gonna start with these like cat ears over here and over here. And then I'm just gonna kind of finish the cat face down here. And let's do a little cat eye and a little cat mouth. And that's kind of it. Like, it doesn't look great, but this is just for my demo. So let's fill in with the second color. Let's make sure we get that pixel up there as well. And so yeah, that's gonna be my basic character design. Let's like add a couple arms, a couple legs. It's a little bit silly. I'm just kind of making something, you know, for the purpose of the demo. And we can see what the size of the art looks like over here. So that's my square cat. You know, it looks okay, but I want to try some other options. So I'm gonna add a new frame. I'm gonna try a circle. So let's put a circle here. Let's actually, I want to delete that. So I'm going to change this back to black for a second. Okay, so I'm going to try with this circle. Let's move this over a little bit. I'll go back to my blue color, and then I'll go to my next frame. So I have my nice onion skin here. And let's try a circle cat. So let's get our pen back. So let's try an ear, and then we have another ear over here. So this is looking like kind of like a more cute type cat. We have like a little cat mouth here, little eye. Okay, so that's kind of like a little bit more cute maybe. So if you're going for, whoops, let's change colors. If you're going for something like kind of a bit more cute, that could be cool. And then let's add our little legs. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm kind of making like anthropomorphic characters, which are animal characters that have like human arms and legs. And so that's another thing that you might try is like a few different designs with like a four-legged character, two-legged character. You know, that's another way that you can vary your character designs. So that looks good. Let's try one more. So I'm going to try a triangle, and I'm going to use the line tool here so I can get some nice even lines. Okay, so, and I have a downward facing triangle, which remember from the article we read is kind of like more intimidating or scary. So I'm gonna go back, go to the next frame. So let's see what my triangle cat would look like. So the ears, I guess, would be, oh, whoops. The ears would kind of go into the triangle. And then the face kind of goes down here a little bit. So yeah, this is kind of a scary looking cat. Yeah, that's pretty freaky actually. Again, not spending a whole lot of time on this, but just to get a sense of what we would get. That's pretty scary. I don't think that's what I want to go with for my main character. So, you know, again, I didn't really spend a lot of time on these guys, but out of the three of these, definitely this one is my favorite. So I'll probably use that as the basis for my design. I am going to save this work now. So I'm going to go to save, and I'm going to call these my character sketches. You might want to delete these extra frames. You know, we don't really need these anymore now that we've kind of drawn the shapes. We can always add more later. So I'm going to save this character sketches. And then the nice thing about Piskel is I can actually, you know, make a copy of this and use that as the basis for my animations. So I am going to switch over to the animations part now. And basically I'm just going to make a few different animations that I'll use in my game later. So let's go back to the gallery. It keeps opening up new tabs. That it seems kind of annoying at first, but it's actually nice that you can kind of go back to the gallery if you need to, but I don't really need all these tabs open. So what I'm going to do now, so that I don't like lose this work, is I'm going to clone these character sketches. And so that's going to be the basis for all of my new characters. So I'm going to edit this one. And I'm just going to delete these other two cats that I don't like. So I'll stick with my kind of circle cat. I'm actually going to flip the cat so that it looks like it's a little bit facing to the right. And eventually my game is going to be moving to the right. So I want to keep that in mind. I guess you could make it move to the left, but usually platformer games go to the right. So I am going to be making a few different animations. I'm going to save this and I'm going to start with, this is my cat idle animation. And I'm just going to make him like wave every few frames. So basically I'm just going to duplicate this frame and I'm just going to erase one of the arms. Oops. And so in the second frame, I'll have him like raise his arm up. Oh, and I don't have my color, so let's grab the color. Okay, so he'll raise his arm up. Well, actually, before I draw the arm, I'm going to duplicate this a couple more times. So one thing you might want to do is make a few duplicates of your frames before you do the animation so that you don't have to erase each frame. So let's go back to the second frame. Let's move the arm up. And then let's move the arm over a little bit. And then in the last frame, we'll move the arm back. And let's turn the FPS back on. And so you can kind of see the animation. And so then here, one of the things that we'll talk about when we export is you might want to have like a little pause between each time he waves, in which case I would want to take this first frame and like duplicate it a bunch of times. You know, that's something I could do. And then we have the little wave. I'll lower the FPS. Oh no, let's increase the FPS so it goes a little bit slower. Or no, we want it to go slower. Sorry. Yeah, that looks good. The second frame of that wave is like a little wimpy. So let's add some more here. Okay, so that's pretty good. So that is good in terms of like previewing our animation, so we can see what happens. And you can totally use that and just export your thing like that. But what I'm going to do, instead of duplicating stuff, I'm just going to try to keep it to as few frames as possible. And the nice thing about what we're going to end up doing with Godot is that we can actually animate our frames in Godot. So we really only need the frames. If we're going to repeat a frame, we can add that to the animation later. So really either way is fine when you export your art. If you want to, duplicate a bunch of frames so that you can see what it looks like and then change it later, that's totally cool. But since we are thinking about using the art in a game later, what we'll do eventually when we put this in Godot is we'll basically say like, we'll have a sprite sheet with like 1, 2, 3, 4 frames, but then we'll use the animation. So our animation system in Godot is going to let us say we want to do like 1, 1, 1. These are really bad frame drawings. 1, as many times as we want before we go on to 2. We're also going to be able to set the length of time. So we have a lot of control over the animations when we use the Godot editor. So we really only need 1 copy of each frame. But you might want to duplicate the frames when you export it so that you can see what the animation will really look like. So I'm going to save that. So we have our idle animation. Again, the idle animation is when your character is not moving at all. So you should feel free to spend a lot more time on this to add some different ones. And you can also add multiple idle animations if you want to like randomize what's happening when the player is not moving. But I'm just doing this as a quick example just so we can see how the editor works and how to export the art. So I'm going to go back to the gallery. And I'm going to clone my idle animation. And I'm actually going to clone it twice. Because I'm going to make two more animations. I'm going to make the walk or run animation. And I'm going to make the jump animation. So let's do, I'm going to choose this one. And the first thing I'm going to do is change the name so I don't get confused. So this is cat walk animation. So I'm going to save that. And I'm going to just delete these frames. And then on this frame, I'm going to erase my limbs. And I really just have like really basic stuff here. You guys will probably have more complicated drawings. So you can, do more stuff with that. But I'm basically just animating the arms and legs. So let's choose our color again. And so now I'm just going to make a few frames of this for the walk animation. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on how to make a walk cycle because I am going to link to some much more detailed tutorials about how to create a walk cycle. So you'll be able to kind of choose the level of detail you want to go with there. I'm just going to make something really quick just to have as an example. So with my walk cycle, I'm going to start with my legs kind of separated. So one's going forward and one's like that, and I'll have one arm like this and one arm like this. And since it's 2D, I can kind of cheat a little bit because we don't really know which side each one is from. So then I'll go to the next one. Want to have the onion skin on so I can see where the last frame was. And so let's have this leg start to pick up a little bit, and this leg's going to go back. Let's actually draw this leg like this. So they're going to start to cross a little bit. We'll have this arm kind of swing up a little bit and this one go that way. Okay, and I'm going to slow down my frame rate a bit so we can see what this looks like. Okay, so then let's see. We've got this back leg has to go forward. This front leg is going back, so they're kind of crossed. And then we'll have this arm fully swing and this arm fully down. Or maybe it's the other way around. You can kind of play with this until you get how you want it to be. That looks good enough. And then I'm going to go to the fourth frame. You can do as many frames as you want for the walk cycle, but I'm not going to go too crazy with this. So now this leg is like coming back and this leg is going to be straight like that, and we'll curl this arm a little bit and curl that arm back a little bit. Okay, so then if we speed this up a little bit, it's a little silly, but it'll do the trick in a pinch. I'm gonna make sure to save this. That's my walk animation. One thing to keep in mind is we're animating for a game, so even though our character is going to be moving, we just have to move the limbs back and forth, because essentially what's going to be happening when we do the game is we're going to have like a box like this, and the game is going to be moving the whole box, but the drawing, the art, is going to be staying in the same place. So we don't have to worry about the actual vertical or horizontal movement. The only thing we have to worry about is the character animation. So that's our walk animation. Pretty silly, but just a really quick thing for our demo. So let's go back to the gallery. And now let's go to our last clone. Okay, I'm going to delete these extra frames again, and I'm going to save this. This is my jump animation, and it's got clone because it's a clone of a clone. But now it's just the jump animation. So let's erase my limbs again. And fill this back in. Whoops. So let's just fill that back in. Okay, so same thing with the jump animation. The code is going to be moving our image around. So all we have to worry about is what the art should look like at each moment. So at the beginning of the jump, he's just standing there. You know, at some point up here, he's probably going to have his arms going down, his legs going down. Then at the top of the jump, you know, he's going to start to level out, try to get some balance, and then he's going to be kind of like falling at the end. So we don't have to worry about the movement of the jump. Our game code is going to handle that. We just have to worry about what's going to be happening. And again, you can always go back and edit this stuff. So it doesn't have to be perfect, you know, first time. So for my jump animation, he's going to start with kind of crouching down. So let's have him kind of crouching like that. And I actually forgot to duplicate my frames, but that's okay. I'll just erase these limbs real quick. Okay, so now I'm going to duplicate this. For the jump, I might need like 5 or 6. We'll see. Okay, so he's going to crouch to start. And then as he starts to jump, his legs are going to get longer. So we'll do a little jump motion. And his arms are going to be kind of going out for balance. And then, you know, as he's kind of in the air, his legs may straighten out a little bit and his arms may kind of go out to the side more. And then as he starts to fall, he's trying to get balance. So let's move his legs back a little bit. And then when he's really falling, his arms are going to be going straight up and his legs are kind of go off to the side. And then he's getting ready to land. So his arms are going to be coming down. And he's going to be bending his legs again to land. So it looks a little weird in here. Let's slow it down a little bit. So it probably doesn't really look super realistic, but once we put it in the code in our game, it will change it a little bit. Another thing is that, you know, when we put things in the game, we're going to see like what is the actual duration of a jump or walking, things like that. So we'll have to adjust our animation and the timing at that point. But for now, this is good enough to get started. So let's save that. Okay, so we've got all of our drawings. We've got our character designs. We've got our animation. So now let's talk about how to export the images for the blog. Okay, so I'm going to go back in to the gallery. And let's close these guys. So I'm going to start with the character sketches. The first thing I want to do in the blog is show the sketches that I tried. So I'm going to open this guy up. And so I have these 3 different sketches and I want to kind of show them next to each other to say, here are the different design ideas I had. Although maybe I wouldn't share this one because it's pretty bad. But anyway, so I'm going to go to the export menu. There's a few different options here. Again, this may be different if you're using a sprite or another editor or Photoshop or whatever. But the outcome is going to be the same. So if you need help figuring out how to get that outcome, we can go over that. But I'll just go over basically what we're looking for. So the first option is a GIF, which we can use for the animations, but these aren't animations, so we're going to skip that. We're going to go over to PNG. And we can download a sprite sheet, but for our character sketches, we actually just want to show each one by itself. So I'm going to go to single frame export and click there. And that's going to download to my downloads folder on the Mac or Windows. And so I'm going to open up the Finder from there. And I can see my character here. And, you know, it's got kind of a long name. I don't know why it has .png twice. But that's okay. I'll just delete one of them. So this is character sketches 1. There is a space right here, so I might want to put like a dash or a underscore there. Just you know, that's going to be better later when we're making the game. But I want somewhere to put these, so I'm going to make a new folder on my desktop, and I'm going to call this sprites. And we will put this inside of the game later, so it's good to have a name for that. And then I'm just going to drag this character design into that folder so I know where it is. Okay, so there's my sprites folder and there's my character. So if you're on Windows, that's going to be a slightly different process, but it should be pretty much the same using the File Explorer. If you need help with that, let me know. In Mac, a nice thing that you can do that I don't think you can do on Windows is you can actually open a new tab. And so I can, have my sprites and my downloads open at the same time, but not necessary. So let's go to our second frame. So I'm just going to click this, go back to export, and download a single PNG file. So this is going to be character sketches 2, so that's good. I don't know why there's 2 PNGs there. That's probably just a bug. So let's drag this over to our sprites. So we have 1, 2. They're pretty small. So with our character sketches, actually, we can up the scale. So if we want it to be a little bit easier to see on the blog, we might do that. So maybe we'll try like 320. Let's see what that looks like. It's a little bit easier to see. So let's actually do that for the blog, make it a little bit bigger. We can always make it smaller again for the game if we need to. So if I drag that in here, it should just replace. So yeah, let's replace that. So let's actually go back here and export the first frame at a larger size. And I'm going to export my last frame at a larger size as well. So I'm just going to click download, and then I'll go back to my Finder. So I've got my first character sketch, and let's put, you don't really need to do this, I don't think. I just kind of do this obsessively. It's not good to have spaces, more for like web development stuff, but for handling your art assets in general, it's good not to have spaces. So, so now in my sprites folder, I have my 3 characters. And I can post those on my blog. We'll do that last, so I'm not going to do that quite yet. Okay, so let's put our downloads folder over here, our sprites folder here. So now downloading the animations. This is a little bit trickier. So I'm going to go back to my gallery and go to my idle animation. So to show the animation, if you want it to be animated on the blog, you may need to use the GIF exporter, which is totally fine. I'm going to leave loop repeatedly on, and I'm going to click download as an animated GIF. Okay, so now if we go to our downloads folder, now it's a GIF, and you can see, it's just the whole animation. It's right there. That's perfectly fine. I left the large size on. I guess that's a global default, so we can make it smaller later if we need to for the game. For the game, we are going to do a sprite sheet. So we'll go back to that in a second. For the blog, the animated GIF is fine. So I'm going to leave this here. Actually, let's just do that now. So while I'm here, so then for the game, what we want to do is actually download a sprite sheet. And that's just like a more efficient way of storing all the frames so we can do the animation later. So I'm going to take the scale back down to 1. So that's like what we're really going to use in our game. And then I'm going to go to sprite sheet export right here. The column and rows, it doesn't really matter. Godot can deal with either. It's saying 2 by 2, which makes sense because we have 4 images. So let's just go with that. So I'm going to download that sprite sheet. And so now you can see the animated GIF and then the sprite sheet. So the sprite sheet is actually, each frame of our animation in a different column. And what the game engine is going to do is actually going to read through those and split them up for us. So those are the 2 different formats we're going to need. Something that we can post on the blog that maybe is a little bigger and animated so it's easier to see what's happening. And then the sprite sheet. If you want to post the sprite sheet, that's totally fine. But the GIF is actually going to make it a lot easier to see what you're doing. So we're going to download each one of those for all 3 of our drawings. So let's go to the gallery. Let's go to the walk animation and export. And so I forget exactly what the scale is, something like that. So let's download our GIF. Okay, and then scale back down to 1 and download our sprite sheet. Okay, pretty simple. So let's go to the gallery one more time. and go to the jump animation. Okay, same thing here. We want to download a GIF and we want to download a sprite sheet. Okay, so now when we go back, we should have the GIF version and the sprite sheet version of each one. Oh, I forgot to change the scale on that one. Whoops. Okay, so I did get the right scale for my walk and for my walk animation. So let's just redo our jump animation because I didn't scale that up. We do want it to be a little bit more visible on the blog. Okay, so now we have all those guys. So the sprite sheets, if you're in a different software, there may be a plugin or it may be built in that you can do that. If not, there are ways to get that done, whether you're in Photoshop or other things like that. I've seen some tutorials on YouTube for doing it. So if you need help with that, just reach out to me. We can go over it on Discord. And maybe, we can go over it in class if there's a lot of people using like one piece of software and we need to figure out how to do it for each one. So anyway, let's drag these guys into our sprites folder. And let's make our blog post. So that's the last thing that we're going to do. So I'm going to go to the Open Lab and I'm going to log in. So I'm just logging in using my email credentials. Okay, and so I'm going to go to, what's the easiest way? If I go to My Courses, go to Game Design, visit Course Sites. Okay, so I'm not actually going to post this, but I'm just going to show you guys what we need to do. So I'm going to add a title. This is my character design. And so I'm going to start with my 3 sketches are based on a square, shape, circle, and triangle. And remember to also, all of my designs look pretty much the same, so there's not a big difference. But remember, part of the assignment is to talk about how realistic they are based on the Scott McCloud Understanding Comics reading. So don't forget to do that as well. This is complaining that I need a category, so let's go ahead and add the category. This is an assignment. And actually, this is a production assignment, so let's call it that. Oh, whoops. I forgot to put that under the assignments. I don't know if I can do that from here. I'll have to do that later. Oh, maybe I can. I'll have to go into WordPress and do that later. Anyway, so this is a production assignment. I'll nest that under assignment. So I'm going to post my 3 characters first. So I'm just going to drag, let's open this up a bit. So these are my 3 sketches. So let's drag these in here. Oh, I guess I need to add image first. So let's try that. Oh, it looks like it only let me add 1. Okay, so this is my square design. Okay, so let's go to the circle design. For some reason I thought you could just drag stuff. Okay, there we go. Circle design. And then we have our triangle design. So I guess you have to drag it around until you get that little blue square. So this is my triangle. That really looks bad. Hopefully your art is going to look better than mine. But if it doesn't, that's okay. Your art doesn't have to be perfect. Anyway, so I'm going to say I went with the circle design. I think it has the most sort of icon style. The square is more realistic and the triangle is in the middle. So just talk about, the scale of realism. Is it more realistic? Is it more iconographic, whatever that word would be? Basically talking about what we looked at in the lecture of realism to iconography. So think about how, how your designs look in terms of that scale. And so once we've got that, now let's add our animations. So let's say animations, and let's just drag in, here's my idle animation. And you can label these, it should be pretty obvious, but let's label them. Here's the jump animation. And here's the walk animation. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I'm gonna preview this. I'm not gonna publish it because I don't want this on our actual blog. But there you go, that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. So this is the character design. I have my square sketch, my circle sketch, and my triangle sketch. Again, feel free to do any different types of variations on these. And then once you choose which sketch you want to kind of go forward with, make your 3 animations. And that's basically it for the assignment. So I'm going to not publish this, but I'll leave it here. And I think that's pretty much it. We did everything we needed to do. Hold on to your sprite sheets because we're going to use those next week or soon to make our games. And also, save your stuff in Piskel so that when you go to the gallery page, where's my gallery? When you go back to the gallery, you can always, if you want to make changes or make edits, we can always go back and do that later. If we need to re-export stuff, you'll be able to do that. So I think that's it for this video. Let me know if you have questions on Discord or if you need to go over anything. We can do a screen share. We can, go through stuff. So I'll be posting this in class, and you guys will be able to reach out to me with questions as you're going through it on your own. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to stop the recording, and I'll see you guys in class.